Awesome. Thank you, Ali. Yeah, so a couple of housekeeping items um, before we get started. So we all bring unique expertise to our discussions. To ensure everyone stays on the same page, please just take a moment to explain any acronyms or industry-specific jargon you use during the call. This helps keep the conversation clear and inclusive for everyone, and we appreciate everyone's collaboration on that. Um, yeah, so we'll jump into Recycle Colorado Policy Committee updates with Rachel and Bill. But yeah.
And Liz. It's a team effort, right? Um, our big bill this year with Recycle Colorado is our battery producer responsibility bill that we are running in partnership with the National Waste and Recycling Association, Rocky Mountain chapter. And we are also working hard with the Portable and Rechargeable Battery Association to align our bill with some that have already passed in other states, but then obviously making it specific to Colorado. And, every time you pass a new piece of law, you learn from the other ones that have gone before you. And so there's usually tweaks. So Liz and team have been very busy making lots of little tweaks, I would say, little but important tweaks over the last couple of weeks. And I think now the legislature was kind of on a little pause working on the state budget bill the last week or two, and so um, we hope to see things kick up again and start moving forward pretty soon. And so I don't know that we have a date yet, but our bill will be in. That looks like Liz says no. Our bill will next be in the Senate Appropriations Committee, where we will be introducing. I see Liz's head bobbing. I should probably just have her give this update. We'll be introducing an amendment that will help. It'll take the fiscal note off, which will help. The fiscal note means the amount of money that the state has to put into a piece of legislation, and particularly in our budget situation this year, any bill that has a fiscal note is really problematic. And so we've figured out a way to get rid of that fiscal note that'll help it move forward more smoothly through the rest of its journey through the Senate, and then it gets to do the same journey in the House. I see a couple of you on the call right now who testified in support of the bill in the Senate, and hopefully will do so again in the House. So this has really been a team effort. Um, I didn't start with what the bill does. It sets up a producer funded system to collect small and medium format batteries, and that will happen throughout our state. Right now, we have a real lack of infrastructure to do that, so they'll be collected and then recycled. I think that's it on the battery bill. If anyone has questions, please ask them. The other bills we've been watching this session really have been ones kind of attacking things that we Recycle Colorado has worked on in the last few years. And to the best of my knowledge, those bills have either already died or are being sent to places where they will die. I don't know that there's any more happening there. And then there's a handful of compost ones, or I should say bills that the Compost Council was watching and trying to get some amendments to. I'm not sure that any of those have been successful to get the compost suggestions added, but we've had some really good response from legislators that were interested in the comments that folks from the Compost Council that they've made, and so that kind of sounds like maybe there's some openings for the future. So that'll be a really interesting path to navigate in the coming years. Liz, or I see Bev is on the call, not to put you on the spot. You do a lot at the State House, not on behalf of Recycle Colorado, but if either of you or anyone else has other updates that I'm missing, please let us know.
Hi, this is Bev Sables with CML, Colorado Municipal League. We're not following the compost related legislation, so I can't provide an update on that, but we did take a position of support on SB 163, which is the battery stewardship bill. So excited to help out on that one. But yeah, a lot of stuff is waiting for the long bill, the budget, and obviously the budget forecast is still not great. So we're kind of waiting on those pieces to get wrapped up. And then I think kind of the floodgates will open in the House and Senate Appropriations Committees. So hopefully we'll see some movement there. That's kind of all I've got right now.
Then Hayden, were you going to talk any more about the producer responsibility workshops, or did you want us to do that right now during policy?
If you could provide some updates on that, yeah, that would be great.
Again, I feel like Liz or Beth would be the better people to do this, so please jump in. Producer responsibility for packaging, that hopefully everyone is very familiar with at this point. The plan was introduced for how it will be implemented. It was introduced the beginning of February. Um, and so right now the advisory board, which Liz chairs, and I saw Brian, he's on the board. I don't know if there's other folks on the call that are on the board. Um, the board is looking at it right now, looking to see if the elements of the plan um, meet the statutory requirements. And then the board is also able to give some feedback as far as, suggestions to it, but really their job is to make sure that it meets the statute. Once the board has completed their recommendations to the Department of Public Health and Environment, um, CDPHE will then turn around to the producer responsibility organization that created the plan, tell them their recommendations. That organization will spend a couple months this summer implementing those recommendations. And then we hope that by August or at the latest September, we will see another draft of the plan for how the producer responsibility organization is going to roll out recycling for packaging materials, boxes, cans, bottles, um, to all Coloradans. And then in August and September, when that next draft is out, that's when there'll be a call for public comment. I can say, as someone whose job it is to keep track of this at my own organization, I still have not made it all the way through the plan. It is a long and very detailed document, so highly recommend that folks start looking at it if you haven't already, and don't plan to just read it when it comes out for the public comment phase. Um, Definitely want to be engaging with it. Um, Liz or Brian, I know the two of them cannot speak about elements of the plan and at any given meeting because of public laws on getting the wrong law. But anyway, because they're both on the board. But are there other points that either of you would like to make about the plan or the process?
Yeah, Brian Loma. I would say that it is long, boring meetings that are very hard to wrap our heads around sometimes. But that one of the things that is often lacking are organizations who are following the plan and making public comments at each of the weekly sessions based on the topics that the board are discussing for that specific meeting. Sometimes when we gather, we're doing our own research. Maybe we have some partner organizations that have provided some materials to us. But for the majority of these topics, there's no public comment happening the day of based on the topics that the board reviewed. And I feel that that is something that is absolutely lacking in the majority, that we could definitely be encouraging.
Ryan, is this something we should include in our notes document so that we can then send that out and distribute those meeting invites?
I mean, it's on the website for CDPHE. So
Okay.
yeah, it's their public, their signups and the Zooms. And I know that some of it's a big ask, right? We sit down for 3 hours a week. And if we're doing our work and our research properly, it might take us another 5 to 8 hours a week as board members to do the research, make sure that we're getting the right material in. It's a lot of work. So don't expect that the general public's going to participate, but sometimes the topics or the issues that are being covered may be of interest. And of course, getting the recommendations or the concerns addressed before the modified plan comes out is the easier way to get things modified than like after the second revision has been completed.
Thanks for that detail, Brian. We'll include some details about that in our notes document for everyone. And that's distributed out after the meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Ben. Yeah, we'll link to the CDPHE, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, to their meeting links. And we'll also include the links to the Colorado Municipal League's webinars that are going on right now in partnership with Recycle Colorado. So we'll include all of those in the notes for everyone to sign up if they're available.
I will,
Excellent. Yeah, go ahead,
before
Rachel.
you move on, I just wanted to also say Liz is on the board as Recycle Colorado Executive Director. She is absolutely representative of our membership. For those of you in Greater Colorado, Gail Gary, a city council person from Steamboat Springs, represents rural Colorado communities. So she's also a great connection. If your style is more to connect with someone rather than to do public comment on those, yes, very long and somewhat dry, but also very interesting and very useful meetings. So those are two good people to reach out to. Brian, of course, also is on the committee, and very friendly too. But if you want to reach out to someone who you feel like really represents your entity, Gail and Liz, for sure, are resources.
Yeah, I will say that I serve in the environmental justice seat. So if your concerns are definitely surrounding environmental justice, I would love to be your go-to.
Great. Thank you so much, Rachel and Brian and Liz, everyone's contributions. It's a big, heavy lift, so we appreciate everybody. Excellent. Any other questions on policy updates or producer responsibility before we move on? All right. Well, we will hand it over to Liz Kuhn with the C3 organization. We'll let her do an introduction, and she has a great presentation for us today on the STEPS program. So we'll hand it over to Liz. And are you able to share your screen?
Let me try. Yeah, I think so.
Great.
All right, everybody see that? All good? Cool. Yeah, no, as Hayden said, my name is Liz Kuhn. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Outreach and Technical Assistance Unit Work Lead for the Colorado Circular Communities, or C3 Enterprise Program. And I'm excited to talk to you all about our STEPS program. I do want to note, and I've heard the disclaimer at the beginning, before I get into the weeds, we use a lot of acronyms here in this program, and some of the names are quite wordy. So I'll explain what they mean as I go through this presentation, but there will be a Q&A at the end. So if any of you have questions on what those mean, please feel free to ask. So in case any of you are unfamiliar with the C3 program, I'd like to start just by giving a brief overview and talk through the program's mission and goals. And then I'll discuss our STEPS program specifically and give a bit of historical context on where it came from and what we plan on doing with it. I'll talk through how any of you can get involved in the program. And then, like I said, lastly, we'll have a Q&A. So starting with an overview of the program, history, all the offerings that we have. The mission of C3 is to empower and support Colorado's communities, businesses, and organizations by providing technical assistance, grants, and funding opportunities for projects that advance circularity throughout the state. So as I mentioned earlier, C3 stands for the Colorado Circular Communities Enterprise. It is a statewide enterprise, which you can think of as a state-run business that provides both funding through grant opportunities and rebates, as well as technical assistance in a few different ways. The enterprise is funded through landfill tipping fees. So anytime someone brings waste to a landfill, there's a fee, and that helps fund our program. The C3 program staff, including myself and my colleagues, are all employees of the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, or CDPHE, and we administer the program. And then we're guided by a board of directors that meets once per month. So C3 is a pretty new program. We were established in July of 2024 through the passage of House Bill 24-1449. And that effectively took our two past grant programs and created one statewide enterprise program. So some of you may or may not have heard of the Recycling Resources Economic Opportunity, or RREO program, that provided statewide grants and rebates and was established back in 2007. It had about $3 million appropriated on an annual basis, and that means that there was a lot of time restrictions for projects to be finished within one fiscal year for that program. And then we had the Front Range Waste Diversion, or Forward Enterprise, which was later established in 2020. And that one provided both funding and technical assistance, but it was only for 13 Front Range counties. It had a much larger budget at $15 million allocated continuously throughout the year. And that meant with this program that there were not the same time restrictions for projects to be finished like the RREO program had. So the C3 Enterprise was created and kind of combined the best of both worlds with these two programs by providing grants, rebates, technical assistance, and more, honestly, for the entire state of Colorado. The budget is a combined $18 million, and that is continuously allocated like the Forward program was, so projects will have the time that they need to complete. And I won't go too in depth in our strategic goals. You can find the entire plan on our website. But if after this presentation you are interested in participating in STEPS, I highly, highly recommend just looking through the strategic plan and seeing where your idea fits. The goals themselves are listed here: to increase participation in the state's circular economy, reduce material consumption, and increase material capture for in-state marketability. And then within each of these goals, we have strategies, and within each strategy, we have very specific activities that we're interested in completing within the next 5 years as a program. So if you look through the plan, you find your community's priorities meets any of our priorities, please feel free to reach out, and we love to talk to you about those ideas. So now that we have that quick basis overview of the C3 Enterprise, I want to specifically talk about one of our technical assistance programs that can help with your community's circularity planning. So the Strategic Technical Expertise for the Public Sector, very, very wordy name, shortened to STEPS, which is much nicer, is focused on providing Colorado communities with completely free expert consultations on projects that support circularity initiatives. And I really want to note that while C3 does have funding, this program itself is not a funding program. The STEPS program is truly intended just to provide free consultation from experts within the field of circularity to help move your community forward and take that next step in your journey towards a circular economy. And really, something I really want to mention, the reason that this program was originally created and why we're continuing it is that it's to take some of that administrative burden off of communities that are looking to hire a consultant. So rather than applying for funding from C3 and then having to manage that contract with our program, and then also having to manage an RFP process or request for proposal process and a contract with your consultant, in this program, you only really have to put time towards working through the project details with the consultant as the project goes through. And then C3 will manage all of that contracting and all of the payment of the consultant itself. So any town, city, county, unincorporated area, public K through 12 school district, and tribe within the state of Colorado is eligible for this program. And then nonprofits, for-profits, universities, state programs, and federal programs are not eligible for STEPS. So I won't go through this in heavy detail, but I wanted to throw in some historical context because while we are a new program, we're building off of a previous technical assistance program that was in itself quite successful. So some of you may or may not have heard of the Technical Assistance Service Provider, or TASP program, that was solely available for the Front Range with the Forward Grant program. STEPS has essentially evolved from TASP into a statewide offering. So back in 2021 and 2022, they developed the TASP program under the Forward program, and Resource Recycling Systems, or RRS, was selected to manage that program with EcoCycle as their main subcontractor. And RRS is still our primary contractor to this day for the STEPS program. And then EcoCycle is still working on a lot of our projects, and it's great. We are hoping to build off of that too, now that we're statewide, and expand that list of some contractors to the different facets of circularity and to the different areas of the state as well, just to be able to expand sort of what we're able to provide. And then once the C3 program took Forward's place in a way in July of 2024, we spent about 6 months restructuring the program, trying to enhance our offerings and make it a lot easier administratively for everyone. And now, as of January 6th, we have been accepting projects, and we're continuing to accept projects, and we've even launched a couple at this point, which is very exciting. So there are different levels of assistance that we offer, and it's entirely based on what your community needs. So starting with the least time intensive, we will be providing resources for any community to pursue its own initiatives. We want to give you the ability to sort of stand up on your own and use some of these resources. So these are going to be continuously added to our website over time. The resources are not located there quite yet, but we're getting a lot closer to getting them up on the website. And as we learn and finish projects, we'll continue to add more and more resources as well. Now, if you want help connecting to the best resources for your community, if you want to learn more about the program or discuss your needs to determine maybe the level of support that you need from us, you can fill out the office hours inquiry form that's located on our website. I have a QR code at the end of this presentation as well. And if that's all you need, great, we can stop there. But if you have a specific project idea and you need more consultation from the experts that we have, then we can discuss in those office hours whether a light touch or an in-depth project is right for you. And a brief overview of sort of what those mean. So light touch is a pathway that you can go down if you have a quick, simple project idea that will likely take under 50 hours of consulting support and up to about 6 months. So a really good example of this would be something like light stakeholdering, really minor updates to ordinance language, maybe a presentation to your city council. And these projects themselves could lead to an in-depth project, which I'll go over in a second, or they could even lead to a recommendation for a C3 funding opportunity. And if you come to us in an office hour and you have a larger project idea in mind, maybe a feasibility study or a licensing agreement, you want to develop an ordinance or develop a brand new program, then in our office hours, we might decide to pursue an in-depth project. These projects are expected to be over 50 hours of support and up to 18 months in project duration, and it does require a proposal submission to the C3 Board of Directors, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a second. And just to really solidify that process, I'm a visual learner, so I wanted to create something a little more visual for everyone. We sort of call this our pipeline. A lot of our processes have a pipeline of sort of the different ways that you can go down them. And so this is just a visualization of that. So if you're interested in enhancing any circularity initiatives, you could go to our online resource library, look at our toolkits, and kind of self-serve in that way if that's all you need. But you're also totally welcome to fill out an office hour inquiry form on our website. And within that, there are a few different ways you can go. We can email back and forth. We can send you some proper resources. We can direct you to the right side of our resource library or send you to a different organization that we think would be better for your program. And that could be where we stop. We could also decide that a light touch assistance project is where you need to go. And if that's the case, then we'll execute that project with a consultant helping as needed. And then if it's a much larger project, we'll decide on an in-depth assistance project. We will create a proposal. We will submit it to actually the other side of the C3 team, our grant and enterprise management side of the team. They'll review that, and then they will present it to the C3 board for approval. As for the types of projects that are eligible, really anything that helps move your community towards a more circular economy is eligible for this program. That includes things like waste diversion action plans, program planning, ordinance planning, education and outreach. Pretty long list as to what you could do. But I do want to note that as we receive in lots of project ideas, which we are, and that's fantastic, we will be prioritizing projects that align very well with C3's strategic plan. So those are the levels of assistance, and then we can talk a little bit more about how you can get involved. So as I mentioned, our resource library is coming soon. Keep an eye out for that. Sign up for our mailing list on the website, and you'll be the first to know sort of when that launches. But ultimately, we'll be filling it with lots of relevant examples of different circularity ordinances that have happened, studies, best practices, and honestly, so much more that you can look to when trying to pursue your own initiatives. And we also plan on having some toolkits and templates that'll be coming later on that your community can work off of to conduct your own circularity planning and implementation projects. Now, with office hours, if you want to talk to a member of our team, whether it's just to look for resources and learn more about the program, or you have a project idea that you're ready to discuss, you can sign up for office hours on our website. You can use this QR code. You can go to the website and click on the Engage with Us tab. Those are all ways to find our inquiry form. And office hours really could mean just a few emails back and forth with a member of our team to send relevant resources or information, or it could mean a full meeting to discuss a project idea. It really just depends on what your needs are and what you're asking for. And lastly, I want to talk about how you can start a project with the STEPS program. So we have no application. There is no applying directly for STEPS. All you need to do is sign up for office hours, and within that inquiry form, just explain in as much detail as possible the project you're looking for support on, and then we will talk through all of the different options that we can provide you. When it comes to light touch projects, these do not need to be approved by the C3 Board of Directors. So once you sign up for office hours and we decide this is the path for you, we'll go through the specifics of what you need, and then a member of our team will send you an offer letter detailing all of the work that is to be performed. And once you accept that, we can just start work right there. But for in-depth projects, I want to talk through the process a little bit more specifically. So if you sign up for office hours and talk with a member of our team and we decide that this is the way to go, we will then actually ask for a letter of engagement from community leadership. So this could be a superintendent or a city manager, and we can talk through those specifics too once we get to that point. And once we receive that, we'll put together a proposal, that will then be approved by the C3 Board of Directors. And I really want to note that this process can take a little while, and it really just depends on the scope of the project. We want to be able to work out all of the kinks in the beginning before we put it towards the C3 board for approval. So it could take a couple of months. It could take a few months to really gather all of the details, get board approval, and then put together contracts afterwards. And one question that I get a lot that I want to address is really why are there contracts if this is free consulting? For these larger projects, C3 will create a contract with our consultants to pay them for the work on the project, and that takes a little bit of time after board approval. And at that same time, that consultant will have a no-cost memorandum of understanding or MOU with your community to ensure that all of the project details are understood. And then finally, feel free to check out our website where we have so much information on this program, what we're looking for, all of that. Also, feel free to take a look at our strategic plan. And then if you have an idea that you want to explore or you just want to learn more, feel free to sign up for our office hours with this QR code or on our website. And that's all I have. I'm ready for questions. Yes, Brian?
I would like to know how C3 determines the circularity and promoting these programs. I received an email from the Circular Economy Development Center on March 11th, which I understand is under the circular Colorado circular communities overall. And it was an email specifically promoting chemical recycling processes for a variety of different types of plastics. And I'm interested in understanding the determination of what is circular and how infrastructure, like we could be promoting mechanical recycling and companies that take the physical products and make new products out of them versus the chemical recycling processes, which just overall, because of the components that make plastic, tend to have some not so pleasant outcomes when they're gone from a solid to another format.
Yeah, no, really fantastic question. And I'd say there I have two sort of aspects to that. First, I just want to, mention our relationship to the Circular Economy Development Center. So us as the C3 team with CDPHE, we're sort of managing the funding opportunities, the rebates, and the technical assistance program. And the Circular Economy Development Center is more focused. There's sort of a separate entity that we work very closely with, if that makes sense. So we help fund the CEDC, and we're working with them on different projects, different end markets that they're developing. But ultimately, they have their own strategic plan. And they are really, really heavily focused on figuring out end markets for really mostly hard to recycle materials around the state of Colorado. Um, and so when it comes to sort of how we're as C3 determining that sort of, what is circular, what isn't, what's the best option for certain materials, first and foremost, we are the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. So we work very closely with our toxicology units. We work very closely with our waste management and hazardous waste management teams and such. Whenever we get a project in where we would have a question related to, is this healthy for the environment? Is it healthy for public health? We take it on a case by case basis and really try to speak with experts in the field on what really is good for public health. So we don't have a specific requirement as to mechanical versus chemical recycling. But if someone came to us with a chemical recycling project, we would ask all of the questions as to how does this affect public health. Hopefully that helps answer your question, but feel free to follow
Well,
up.
yeah, no, I just I'm looking at the email. I recognize that like clothing and polyesters from clothing is a difficult to recycle material. I appreciate the Terraform. The ester cycle imaging shows a lot of eco products in the photo. And the top of the one is thermoplastics, which have an easy recyclability in a mechanical setting. So we can take it offline. I'm glad to discuss this in further details. My job title with Green Latinos is hazardous materials and waste diversion. So I've particularly taken some study into the emissions from chemical recycling processes. And I just want to express my concern that where mechanical recycling is available, that should be our first focus, in my opinion.
Okay. I've very much heard by the C3 program, and I'm happy to connect you with the Circular Economy Development Center too to talk through a little bit about what that email means. Any other questions about steps C3?
Liz, I'm wondering if, I see Angela's coming off mute, but after her question, if there aren't questions, if aren't other ones, if you could just give some examples of some of the projects that Task Force C3 have or are working on, just to kind of get people's ideas going. But I'll let Angela ask her question first.
Yeah, hi Liz. You had mentioned the funding, the bank, so to speak, is like that 18 million. What funds the C3 enterprise? And is that funding like, does it renew every so often, or how does that work a little bit?
Yeah, so we are entirely funded by landfill tipping fees. So anytime someone drops off at a landfill, they pay a fee, and that directly goes into our programs fund. So that 18 million is a very, very good estimate of what those fees will look like on an annual basis. It could always be a little bit more if circularity comes to be a huge way of life for everyone, then that $18 million will be a lot less. And I can tell you, I wouldn't be too mad about that. Um, but yeah, ultimately, that's sort of what funds our program.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Happy to give some examples of some projects we have in the past and going on, but just want to double check no one else has any other questions before that. No? Awesome. Um, really some projects we have, and I think one of my slides is pretty good at showing some of those things. So we have done lots of feasibility studies. We have also done some program planning. I can tell you currently we have a couple of projects that are focused on garnering city council support and also trying to get an idea of what city council wants. So in some cases, if you're maybe looking forward towards producer responsibility and you're interested in getting involved, and maybe you're like, do I want to do a single hauler ordinance? Do I want to do hauler licensing? Do I want to leave it up to the hauler in the area? Whatever it is, we can sort of conduct a feasibility study on that, on different collection models, to see what would be best, and then present that to your city council at the end for them to decide what they believe is best. We can conduct waste characterization studies as well. That's something we've done a lot in the past. I'm trying to think. We've done lots of program planning. We have one executed project right now with Adams K-12 schools. Um, what else? We have a behavior change campaign that we're looking to do with a community. We're kind of in the very beginning processes of that. And that's actually something that is in our strategic plan to conduct these types of campaigns. So if you're at all interested in behavior change and conducting those types of social marketing campaigns, please reach out. Um, there's really a lot that we have done. And I can look at some specifics too if y'all are interested, and happy to also talk through that with anyone specifically. And our resource library will have a lot of examples, and it will have some final reports too from all of the projects that we've had in the past. So you can look at how those worked out and what we did with those. See, we have a question.
Yeah, this is Peter. I'm sort of an independent, sort of private entrepreneur. Um, and the C3 program, says communities. So I didn't know whether you support programs. I'm um, uh, working on a device that I think has the opportunity to really scale um, curbside composting. So I didn't know if it would be eligible, given that it's a private for-profit endeavor. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, so as a private for-profit endeavor, it would not be eligible for the STEPS program. That is specific to the public sector. But when it comes to our funding opportunities, we do have three different funding tiers, dependent on the amount of funding that you're looking for. And I believe you must be registered with the Colorado Secretary of State as a business in order to apply for funding, which is a pretty simple process. But if you do have a project idea that could it help enhance circularity, I highly suggest taking a look at our strategic plan and seeing where it aligns with that. And then we also have all of our funding guidelines on our website. And those really lay out pretty clearly eligibility. And also, they have all of our application questions and how we're scoring those applications as well in those guidelines.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So I admit that I just asked Bill a question on the sly, and then I realized that it was probably something others might be interested in. Um, because the point of C3 is to drive circularity, I was curious if the landfill tip fee is only for refuse at landfills, because we know that there's a number of landfills in the state that already also have compost diversion piles or recycling intake. So, Bill or Jennifer, do either of you want to answer that rather than me speaking for the experts?
I'll go. Jennifer doesn't want to go. Yeah, that state surcharge is just for materials going into the landfill. Our recycling, we have we call it a convenience center here as well, where people can bring their recyclable materials also, and that is for no fee on that. So those funds, as Liz was saying earlier, used to fund our REO and the front range waste diversion programs for those surcharges, and those are for landfill tipping fees, and that kind of we're an enterprise fund here, and that kind of what funds our recycling program and our compost program. We do charge for the biosolids that come in and the slash that comes in, and then we turn it into a class 3 product, and then we sell it as a finished product.
And Liz, I have a question for you. So with the STEPS program, is this, so my understanding is this is like a great opportunity for communities to prepare for producer responsibility, as we get ready for the project plan and everything. So that is that something that communities should be considering when they're looking at projects, is how their projects are going to apply to producer responsibility and kind of that feedback loop?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So absolutely, if your community is interested in producer responsibility, I think the STEPS program is a really great tool to help get you there. We are not the same team that is working on producer responsibility, so we can't give any hard details on how things are going to work until it's made publicly available. Um, but at the same time, we work very, very closely with Circular Action Alliance and with the CDPHE team that's working on producer responsibility. So we are as up to date as possible. We're asking them questions consistently. And we definitely ask about producer responsibility in almost every one of our office hours when it comes to project ideas. So if you haven't thought about it, but you have a project idea, it's likely that we'll at least bring it up in a conversation to make sure that you're aware. But ultimately, we will not push any community in any way. We're here to help you and meet you where you're at, but we will not push you towards producer responsibility. We're just here to help if that's what you're interested in.
Great, thank you. Yeah. Excellent. Well, yeah, we're looking at the time. Any other last questions for Liz before we jump to the next agenda item?
I'm just going to put in one more plug for Recycle Colorado. All three of these funds are programs that Recycle Colorado, through our policy work, we really supported and helped bring these funds to life. So when you're engaging with Recycle Colorado, when you're doing lobby days, it's cool things like this that come out of being a member and participating.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that back full circle to Recycle Colorado and the impacts we have, Rachel. Awesome. Well, we'll move along. Thank you so much, Liz, and all of the C3 team for all the great work you're doing. And we did put the link in the chat. for the C3 website. So please reach out to them if you're looking to set up office hours or to review their strategic plan to apply this year. So thanks again, and really appreciate it, Liz.
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. All right. So yeah, a little more, we'll discuss a little more with grant funding, but just on the side of how local governments can get creative with funding. So this is kind of the standing agenda item with grant funding, and just kind of brainstorming ideas on how communities have been getting creative with some of their local funding opportunities. And it's kind of an open-ended discussion that we have. So we'll kind of open it up to the group. If you've had any experience or any projects that you've recently gotten funding for or funded within your local communities. So we'll kind of open it up to the group for a quick discussion. And if we don't have anything to share this time, that's all right as well. We're going to kind of keep this in the rotating in the agenda just in case there are some opportunities that people would like to share. So just keep that in mind.
I will add a little something.
Go ahead, Megan. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. So BPI, which is a third-party certifier of compostable products, they did at the end of last year some micro grants, and I know they're going to do another round of funding sooner than later. And we actually, Eco Products, did kind of like a match grant. So the goal was to help composters who accept certified compostables kind of incentivize BPI to choose them. So like I know Julie on the call at Elements, she was awarded one of the grants, but we ended up kind of just like sharing about $1,000 to $2,000 to different composters across Colorado, and then a couple more in the Rockies. So I know, keep an ear out if anybody's interested. I do kind of have a small collection of compost facilities that I'll just kind of let them know when I see grant opportunities or any kind of funding opportunities. I'm happy to send that to anybody who wants to kind of be on my list that I just make up.
Thank you, Megan. Yeah, that's excellent. And Alicia has her hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in. Thanks as a recipient of the STEPS program. The city of Steamboat Springs is experiencing some good feedback and support from the STEPS program. So thank you, Liz, and to EcoCycle and RRS for the work that they're doing with the city. But secondly, I also wanted to, not necessarily a grant opportunity, but for those of you who aren't aware, the AmeriCorps, the Civic Spark Fellow Program, is a way to get staffing support that at a lesser expense than maybe what you would pay for a full-time employee. It's a temporary position. We've experienced it for the last 2 years. Super helpful, super affordable. And so I'm happy to share that information. I don't know who's the best to send it to, but I'm happy to send a link to the contact that I have for the program, because I think they'll be opening up the 25-26 program here shortly. So I'm happy to share that information with anybody who's interested.
Thanks, Alicia. Would you send that over to me so I can include that in the notes?
Sure thing. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Alicia. That's a huge help to a lot of communities. As we know, it can be really difficult to staff all the pipe dreams that we're all working on. So yeah, that's excellent. All right. And we'll do a quick update on Recycle Colorado Summit scholarships. If we have some updates from Liz or Allie from the group before we conclude today.
Can I jump right back in real fast? I want to put a promo note out for the Recycle Colorado CML webinar tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock that we'll be talking about EPR and end markets. I'm just being selfish because I've put it together and I think it's going to be a great group of people. A lot of good information. Going to talk about how EPR works with end markets, and then an example of an end market having glass to glass, and then a couple of others from materials that are on the additional materials list. So don't forget to go to the CML website, or the Recycle Colorado, I believe, also has it. You need to sign up, and then you'll receive the registration following your registration. You'll receive the web link following registration. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. And yes, that is linked in the chat for anyone who is interested in that to track down as well. And we'll include it in the notes as well. Perfect. All right. Any updates on the Summit scholarships or just the Recycle Colorado Summit in general that we wanted to share? Allie or Liz?
I'll just chime in because I'm on the scholarship committee and putting the link to the page in the chat. And when Allie was talking at the planning meeting this morning, I took a peek at some of the applications so far. They're starting to roll in, and I was really excited to see folks applying from Greater Colorado, not just from the Front Range. A lot of our applications last year came from Front Range schools. That kind of makes sense since we're in Fort Collins. But super excited. So if you have someone in mind, whether they are new to the industry, getting into the industry, they are a current student, please share the scholarship information with them because we would love to broaden who gets to participate. And also, of course, props to Allie and Liz and Angela and all the folks working on planning the summit because it looks like it's going to be really cool.
Yeah, everyone go and register if you haven't yet. It's live on the Recycle Colorado website. And yeah, thank you so much, Rachel, for that. That's exciting to hear that schools from all over the state are starting to sign up. So yeah, looking forward to it. Excellent. Well, yeah, we'll wrap up today's meeting. Thank you again to Liz and to everybody who joined us. The next meeting is going to be on April 30th. So we'll send out some information on that prior to the meeting. And then the following one will actually be in person at the Recycle Colorado Summit on June 4th. So look for info on that as well in the near future. But yeah, if anyone else has anything to share quickly, otherwise we will wrap up and we'll see you at the next one.
I did drop a link in the chat. I'm going to be in Grand Junction on Saturday. I'd love to meet anybody in person. We'll be at Cesar Chavez Festival.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. Yeah, hopefully people can link up. So excellent. Well, yeah, everyone enjoy the rest of your day and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.